Awesome! Great Snook! So actually, we're going to go ahead and go straight to the panel. Yeah, so we're going to go ahead and go straight to the panel here. Fantastic talk from Mr. Snook. He's a real leader and really has a lot to say. So I would like to welcome to the stage President Vitt, Kent Christensen, okay, Andrew Prowl, yeah, Macedoff. I know you here. Here we are, Mr. Christensen. You can start off with that. You just have to turn it on. And we have another mic right there. Yeah, just turn it on. Fantastic. Hello, guys.
All right, so I'm going to let these guys talk, but I'll moderate it so we can keep it interesting, and we'll take some questions from you guys. Why don't we do this? Why don't we go 30 seconds, like a real 30 seconds? Who you are, what you do, because I know we all can get long into who you are, what you do, and what's most relevant around the state of adoption from your perspective, and then we'll go down the line, and I'll grab my mic down there.
I'm David Johnson. I'm the CEO of Gladio. We are a crypto adoption platform. So our main goal is to make this easy to use for everyday people. That's why I'm on panel.
I'm Vít Jedlička. I'm the founder and president of Liberland, which is the first, I would say, fully crypto-supportive country, which doesn't only, of course, adopted Bitcoin and all these cryptocurrencies from day one, but we're moving our governance and the whole system of, for example, justice on blockchain. Of course, for us, it's important that we get the crypto out to our nation. I think that was one of the biggest motivator for me to start Liberland, because I wrote my thesis on central banking and how it's all screwed up. And I think that's the best way how to implement liberty is to get rid of the central bankers.
Justin Tabb, I'm founder and CEO of Substratum, and we basically set out to create a free and fair internet, and have pretty much done that so far.
Andrew Prowl with Convergence, and we're working on the Silicon Nexus project, which is a cross-reality virtual universe with a blockchain backbone to secure all the digital assets for the players.
I got my own. Messenger Bank, Ken Christensen, CEO. We did it once before, back in the zeros, sold it very successfully. Now we are the largest retail bank in the world, and we're going to kick ass. All the old guys are in trouble. That's all I can say. You can find me on social media everywhere.
All right, so we have one entrepreneurial government leader, which is President Vitt, and then we have 4 entrepreneurial leaders. So let's talk about adoption. As an entrepreneur, I think most of you would agree with this, but feel free to disagree or elaborate. Of all the things we could care about, right, the metric that matters most is adoption. Dogs like bones, right? Babies like milk, and adoption matters. That's kind of how I think about it, right? So, as it relates to adoption in our industry, I know specifically we'll start with you, but you guys can bang around. Solving the friction problem, solving the adoption problem with end users is part of the equation. What else is part of the equation? And why don't you guys weigh in on where your focused efforts are as it relates to your enterprise? What kind of adoption do you need to see for your enterprise to move forward? Because it may be different than just user adoption.
Well, I mean, there's friction. There's obviously regulatory friction. Anytime you're operating in a gray area, institutions are kind of sitting on the sidelines. So I'd say the regulatory side of it is definitely creating friction for adoption. People don't really know if this is here to stay. So there's some uncertainty, and I think that impacts both regulatory bodies, institutional bodies, and end users. But I think what we have right now is a big problem with our design flows. We're talking about protocols. We're not really talking about user interfaces, which we're well into the tech movement here. And when you're looking at UI and things like that, it takes us back to command lines. People aren't going to grab that and run with it.
So you're to put that in an example, maybe everybody can relate to. No one understands how their email works, and we're trying to explain to them how email works.
Definitely. We're saying, okay, here's a car. Now you need to understand how the engine functions. And I'm saying the answer is show the gas pedal.
Right.
Yeah.
Is it going to get me a date?
Yeah.
Right.
That's it.
You have any thoughts on that adoption from your standpoint? You're dealing from a totally different lens, which is building a country, and a physical country that is borderless but also has borders. What does adoption look like from your standpoint?
I would say that Liberlanders are, let's say 50-60% very much familiar with what cryptocurrencies are, so we are standing on a different level than other nations, and that of course gives us an advantage. I think that Liberlanders have profited enormously from the rise of crypto, and that many of them are actually making this user-friendly interface to the world of crypto happening as we speak. A bunch of you are actually Liberlanders already here, that's great. I think that's actually a very good way how to bring the idea out to the world, and of course in the media, if people that are crypto-friendly form their own country, their own nation, and they collaborate together to get these technologies up.
So how does that scale though? I've always, it's one thing to form a country and a digital nation state and with a physical border like you are, but how do you scale that idea to one that could impact 1 billion people versus, 500,000? And I'm just curious.
That's a good point, but honestly, we just need to. Right now, we are, for example, making a e-residency program that will be extremely easy to sign in, and you get your card, and it will be integrated with social media. And I think that will be another way how to get a couple more million people on board. And I think with some bigger successes that are on our roadmap for next year, it's always self-fulfilling. So whatever achievement we get, whatever new recognition we get, it's always pays itself off. It's like a snowball. So I just believe that, for example, with Liberland, we will get that snowball where we'll be able to get on board a couple millions of new citizens or e-residents of Liberland, because citizenship is more like a prestigious thing in our society, but everybody should be able to get e-residency of Liberland, get their basically crypto wallets set up and stuff like that by the private businesses in Liberland, get the first decentralized insurance that is also going to be part of our ecosystem in a couple of minutes. So they could, and this is again about, of course, making it user-friendly, but I think that Liberlanders and the network of businesses that is growing right now will make it possible for next year, and that again will be self-fulfilling. The more and the better decentralized businesses there will be for Liberlanders, the better the whole country will be promoted. So if you get some very nice crypto-friendly thingy and you don't know where to incorporate under which flag, then of course Liberland is the place to go.
Excellent. So from the entrepreneur standpoint, go right down the line. The challenge that I think a lot of you face is always in this cycle, you have a small percent of the market that is awake enough and early adopting, and yet you have in this case, you actually have a lot of people who capitalize themselves compared to maybe other cycles, but capitalization ends up running out. Like at some point it runs out, and when you're adopting into a small niche of the population and it's fragmented, you're constantly fighting for survival every day. That's the life of an entrepreneur. That's what makes it so rewarding and so painful. If you were thinking about not just Substratum in your case, if you weren't just thinking about your company, but what your company's trying to achieve, and you were divorced mentally from that if this company failed, you won't be in the game anymore, because I doubt that will be the case. You'll go start another company, right? That's entrepreneurs. What are you trying to mow the grass down to, and what does adoption look like, even if it means you don't win the monopolized market at the end of that trail? That'd be an interesting.
Sure. So for us, I mean, from a Substratum standpoint, I mean, I believe adoption is meeting the user where they are and meeting their need in what they are. And for us, that needs actually grown over the last year and a half with things like the repeal of net neutrality and the copyright, law there in European Union, Vietnam rulings, things like that. So the need's only grown. Making it easy to your standpoint, any touch point. I feel like, as you said, anything in the blockchain space, we've gone backwards 20 years in relation to the user experience. And so that needs to be done. But from a collective standpoint, what I really believe needs to happen, and somebody needs to take the lead on this, is where we can all come together and explain to the regulatory bodies that sort of have these questions and stand in the way of adoption, why this is different than orange groves and oranges in 1933 or something. What is different? What's important about this? And I feel like we all sort of become self-interested, and to your point, you say, I'm going to make sure that this happens, and I want to, and that's good. But there needs to be, I believe, some common ground amongst crypto projects, amongst blockchain projects, where we can come together in some sort of foundation or something and say, look, we all need to be united in this, because to make sure that those regulatory barriers sort of get out of the way, where we can all see our projects succeed. And I think that's something that's not happening now. That needs to happen.
Well, talk about open standards and what they mean to you for a little bit, because I think that's been a big thing the last several years, where we've seen open source kind of established as a thing, and also whether they overpay for it or not isn't the debate. The reality is that the largest acquisition ever, $34 billion, was of Red Hat just this last month. And again, another big valuation point of open source as here to stay. But open source from your perspective and what you just said, it's like Elon giving away the patents several years ago and saying, I'm not competing with you, I'm competing with gas engines, right? So,
yeah. So,
And you can weigh in on it, can't you?
so I don't know what.
I think we lost our microphone. Can everybody
I'll
hear
just
us?
talk loud.
Yeah, we'll talk loud.
What? Yeah.
Everybody in the back can hear?
So as far as open source, I mean, what we've really seen from it is this. Okay. So as far as open source, we've seen exponential growth, and I really think that's what it is. You're opening it up to saying, let's all work together to make this initiative go forward. Some of the examples I gave where people took and ported it into Raspberry Pi, something that's on a roadmap, but down the road on our roadmap. But by taking that and saying, I'm not necessarily worried about the intellectual property rights on this and holding on to it with a firm grasp, and I want to share it with the world, and allowing people to take that, I think you really see, an exponential growth of ideas, where people can say, take and build upon what you've done, and that's why in the third stage in our plan is to make each and every one of our products a platform. If you want to go right now and do crypto to fiat conversion, you have to do it yourself. There's no third-party API that you can go to Coinbase or Gemini or something like that. There's no sharing like that, even though we make money. So, by opening tools like that up to people where they can go, and then, look at Apple, for instance. You had Apple, you had the iPhone, the first iPhone come out, and it was cool, and it had a couple apps on it, right? And everybody, sort of liked it, but it was overpriced. And then, they go to 3G and introduce the App Store. Then you see this explosive growth, because now developers are enabled all over the world to take part in that, and then look at what we have today. And so I really think that by opening your technology up and allowing people to see what you're doing and taking part in it, I really think it just, to your point in your discussion, takes that exponential growth and kicks it up even more.
I'm going to come back to that for the banking side, but add to that comment if you'd like, or go a different direction, and I'm going to come over to the banking.
So I'm lost on which question we're at. So I'll go back to the user adoption.
Well, it could be user adoption, or it could be open source, and your kind of perspective on that, or whatever you think.
Well, I obviously reflect well with the user adoption, and we're all about player acquisition as a service. But in that, we're doing a test in Singapore where the rules that I had to do this test is don't piss off our players and don't piss off our staff. It doesn't matter how much money we can make. You do either of those and you're shut down automatically. So it's got to be ease of use to players that know nothing about blockchain, have never heard of Ethereum or Bitcoin or cryptocurrency. They just want digital assets that are secure. It's like, you might not know how atomic energy or water power energy powers these lights, but you flip that light switch on and you can see, that's all that matters. So they just want a secure asset, and that's where we're attacking this, is at the fundamental level of this is a process you already do, and here's your pain point is you don't own that asset even though you think you do. Because if a game company kills your account, your $500,000 worth of assets that you spent the last 6 years accumulating are gone. But if you push them out on the blockchain, at least you can then, transfer.
I think so. This is an interesting transition to what I want to build on. We talk about macro forces that generate that platform expansion or that adoption expansion. I think gaming is an interesting use case. Going back to what happened with Apple, right? As entrepreneurs, sometimes as you're solving your own problem for adoption, there's these other things in play and the bigger systems in play that are on decline that ultimately end up being the reason why things get escalated. I was having a conversation sidebar earlier. Qualcomm in like 2009-10, or I'm sorry, in 2006 was like going like this. It was about $6 billion in revenue or somewhere in that neighborhood. I was consulting for them for a brief period in 2013, and they had just gone through $6 billion in annual growth the year prior, and they had another $6 billion projected. They went from like 14 to 19 to 26 in a 3-year period, and it was all off of smartphone chip and integration. But 5 short years earlier, before Jobs released the iPhone, and before 3G, but before that, they had saturated the market for all the CDMA chip technology. And so even though they were the successful company that had the monopoly on the market, without somebody creating a new thing, there was nowhere left to grow. Now, the minute the iPhone came out, it gave them a whole new market to create and sell into. So gaming can be a way that pulls user adoption and user experience back from the 20-year lag because, again, owning my asset versus not, and not caring about it, just doing what I want to do, the gamification, all those things, like that married with maybe some other macro force that is people are out of work, so now they're trying to entertain themselves, but they're broke, so they're playing online games for free. But when you think about these macro things that are bad, like 50% of the jobs going away, well, if those people now have one of these in their pocket, subsidized by Verizon or whomever, and they're never going to get rid of it, but they can't afford to go buy a $500 Nintendo Switch, they can log on and play his game and own their asset and start to trade up. All of a sudden, you now have broke people in mass that are driving adoption of blockchain as a use case. So there's these things that we don't have to worry about, even when things get bad, that could be interesting.
We see in the future a reality of people actually earning money playing games. I had to settle a dispute back in 2004 with a mother that drug her son into a gaming center. Mad as all get out at him. I had to show her through his EverQuest account and eBay that this kid was averaging $7,500 a week selling assets from EverQuest. And that is how he just paid in cash for a brand new convertible Mustang.
Yep.
She thought he was a drug dealer.
Yeah. Yeah, no,
he was trying to explain to her, and I had to get in there. She wasn't listening to him. And that's the kind of stuff that these assets have value, and people can literally earn as they play.
Napoleon Hill says in every negative event, there's the seed of equivalent or greater benefit. I think that's what we want to do.
Yeah, it creates a need.
Yeah, so let's talk about banking, because the idea of disruption and construction are two concepts that I think are, disruption's thrown around a lot, but construction, building it anew. Talk about what you're doing in banking. Talk about what you're replacing. Talk about what you're improving and what's in the way.
Well, Messenger Bank is really simple. It's a one-stop shop. We have a crypto exchange. You can pair your crypto with any currency. You can get your debit card on a prepaid platform. We do your KYC, your AML. Everything is done. You can go and get your mortgage on your house. You can go and borrow money against the cryptocurrencies, because if you read the news, cryptocurrencies are like basically gone right now. Right? They are way, way down, so why sell them? Borrow some cash against them, go on a little bit. But what we really did, what's really the difference between Messenger Bank and another 100 remitting companies in crypto that is just bullshit. They don't have the experience, they're too young, they don't know what they're doing. The deal we made with the big retailers in the United States, to have our products on the shelf in 180,000 shops, to have the Visa MasterCard that you can spend and use in 44 million shops around the world, and you have it available in every ATM machine that exists, These other little guys from the cryptocurrency remitting companies, they try to build some 5 Bitcoin ATM machines and put them up in a cafeteria. It's all bullshit. You know, they go and raise $30 million on a white paper and they run away with the money. We did it all ourselves. We pay for everything ourselves. Now we're selling the 50 states in the United States to collect 28 million. We're actually collecting money now. But why? That's because we want to make Messenger Bank into a household name. If we put on every Greyhound and substation and train station and wherever immigrants and students they walk around, if we put advertisement there in 2019, 2020 for $20 million, we will be a household name. And that's what it takes. It takes all these places to go and load your card, and it goes, we have to bring the message out to people.
So what's the value prop for the merchants? How do you get merchants adopted? Is the merchant fee less? Is it just you're opening up a smaller...
It's simple. Let me explain.
Yeah.
Somebody goes into 7-Eleven and he buys a $3,000 load card. Right? 7-Eleven charges me $4.95.
Yep.
He pays it. He pays the $4.95, but we refund him in the end of the month. So 7-Eleven and Walmarts and all these guys, they're very happy with this business because they get a lot of immigrants. They have them anyway. Yes? So for them it's easy. For us it's really great because we don't have to build bank branches and have employees and pay rent. So that's a win-win.
So that's your adoption strategy, is you're going through point of sale retail in the convenience store market. That's where you've penetrated, and you're competing for the slot space of other prepaid cards, but your value prop is
the other prepaid cards are not on blockchain, they don't have an exchange, they cannot pair different currencies. We do cross-border settlements in everywhere in the world. Right now, if you open a Messenger Bank wallet, and I have my wallet here, I know the president of Lebanon, you've just seen it, so I can actually send you $400 million in 2 seconds. The Federal Reserve, the national banks or whatever, nobody can stop that transaction, and everything we do is 100% legal. The prepaid platform, the prepaid Visa card, is a simple prepaid platform with a PIN number. So that's simple. There's no registration there. Mm-hmm. Yes. Our company is registered in Wyoming. Perfect place for cryptocurrency. No problem there. So in America, we're really set, and we're really ready to become a household name, and we are really ready to take the fight with Chase and Bank of America and these guys, because they cannot compete with us. We can do the same.
So what happens when one of them comes to acquire you?
That happened last time. Last time they paid me $863 million. If they come with 150 billion this time, I might consider I'm getting old, right?
Everybody has a problem.
But it won't happen. It won't happen. I won't sell. This time I'm not doing it for money. That's the difference.
Yeah.
This time I'm doing it to get this system out. Messenger Bank has to be owned by all the token holders. I want Messenger Bank to belong to the people.
So will there be a play to tokenize the bank at some point to like a credit union but on blockchain basically?
You got it. That's what we are doing now. Actually, we are acquiring in Malta a community bank together with Binance, right? And we're just going to decentralize it and throw the key in the sea and forget about it and walk away.
So, any questions? We got to wrap up for this. Any questions? Yes.
Okay, thank you.
So, a question for you all, and it's about the constitution we see here. We have the president of Liberland here, and we have a representative of a bank here. So, Liberland is for me money or freedom. And I come from a viewpoint that I say religions or something like that, and I said I will unbank, or I will bank the unbanked with a third-party company, which is doing KYC. It's an auctionist, because many people out there in the hearts haven't got any KYC, haven't got any photo to give a proof of where they live or something like this. And I ask myself if there is something like Virex out there, where debit cards have the same system that they are out now. It would make sense to have another bank there. In the space when we talk about cryptos, cryptos were meant to be a bank for yourself, not by a third company choosing which account is closer to the.
So the question,
Can I answer that?
Yeah,
because it's really easy.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right. Messenger Bank, we bridge the gap between crypto and fiat, right? So in 5 years' time from now, the messenger bank, the last 4 letters of that company is going to be thrown in the garbage. It's just a messenger. But right now, we need to do KYC, we need to do all these things because that's what the requirements are. We don't want to be shut down by the SEC or whatever. So what I'm doing is 100% a target. And we can actually do KYC on a guy in Cameroon without a passport. Because we run him against 30 databases and we will find out who that guy is even if he has an expired driving license. So don't worry about that. We have the technology, we have the experience, we have done it for 18, 19 years. We know what to do. But if we don't follow the rules, we will be shut down. Trust me, because we are,
so that
we
goes
are
into
actually
the adoption curve, right? So the adoption curve is you can't
bridging
do
the gap.
you can't do everything you want to do, but it doesn't necessarily mean you're off focus. And I think that's the religious dogma that we have to always protect against. That's why I asked you about the selling question. Because like we can start out with the best ambitions, but then someone comes in and we forget what that was and we take the offer or we make a decision. But adoption requires compromise to get to certain levels.
Look, if we don't use Visa, MasterCard, we could have created our own ATM network, right? Yeah. Made all the APIs and have a card without Visa, MasterCard logo on it. Easy. But we won't sell it. People won't buy it. People are not that smart. I am very sorry. I'm one of them. I'm not that very smart either. So if we give them something they know, and we have our cards on the Google Play Station everywhere, it's simple. People already know it. They already know how to do a redeem code and scratch the card and everything else. We have to accommodate the unbanked. We have to accommodate the normal people. We don't have to use smart words as HODL and FOMO and all that bullshit. We have to speak to normal people. They're carpenters, they're cleaners, construction workers. We have to communicate with them on their level and find them where they are. We have to put advertisement on radio stations because they don't have time to watch television. Yes? We have to put advertisement on Greyhounds because that's how they travel. They don't fly business class like I do, right? So let's be realistic. We are the strongest and the best crypto bank project in the world, period. And why? Because we have an experience that nobody else has that experience. And you will see that the next 2 years, 3 years with a $250 billion market cap. So.
I fully agree with him on that. If you notice on our Sarah slide, we have a little debit card down there with a MasterCard logo. I had an in-depth conversation with David Bishop. He's on our team. He comes out of 26 years being the chief operating officer of Bandai Namco. Basically bringing these out into the family entertainment centers. You've got mom and pop organizations that don't care about crypto, don't understand crypto. So we figured stage one for them is to deal with them at their level. A debit card system with a MasterCard on there that we convert in the background. And effectively, once we get them, sorry for the slang here, but addicted to the money that we bring into their establishment, then we can slowly migrate them strictly into pure crypto. Right. But right off the bat, you have to deal with them on their level, on their understanding of the common public out there. And the common public as a group is an idiot.
And just let me come with a little side remark on this. Before we did Club World Connect, before we did Messenger Bank right now, right? In 1996-97 until 2007, we had a company in Vegas called Billing 24/7. We were the largest acquirer in the world, bigger than Wells Fargo. And we were shut down so hard you can't believe it. Why? Because we were a little bit more rebels and we didn't fucking follow the rules. So this time, we do it right. So, when you have made $4 billion a month on gray gaming, because it was not legalized, the 12th of August in 2007, game over. Yes? Sportingbet PLC in England, he was arrested in precinct 16 in New York. I came with a check, a $2 billion check to get him home to England, prepaid tax. We had a poster right here in front of the Senate. It was 100 feet this way and 30 feet that way. Tax us. That's all we had, bidding 24/7. So we know what we are doing. We don't want to make mistakes. We want to do everything legal, and we want to help the poor guy. And this time we don't sell it. I don't do this for money.
Right.
I have so much money I can't count it. I am doing this to help 200 billion people getting to the next level of stability. That's my legacy. And that's why it can't be done.
All right, we're gonna ask them to tell you one thing that you can do to support what they're working on, and then we're gonna wrap this panel up. So, Latium, what is the one thing you want everybody to do if you had your wish?
I think that when it comes to Latium, I think that what I'd like people to do is, if you have someone who doesn't understand crypto, instead of trying to explain it to them, which I would say is difficult, if you can even hold their attention that long, just send them to latium.org. They can sign up, they can figure it out. That's the point of the site. They can obtain crypto within 10 minutes, and they don't have to put investment in it. It's all about production for crypto. Work for crypto platform.
Cool. All right. For Liberland, what's the call to action?
It's happening, guys. And by the way, our representative to Italy just came over here. He's going to talk about Bitcoin Private. I think that's an amazing project which combines privacy with smart contracts and atomic swaps between Bitcoin and completely private cryptocurrency. Happening, and I've got a couple of bankers here that we're going to sit down, and hopefully we will see some new banks growing up. So I'm really excited, and yeah. It's just your choice, like what country you are fond of, you should support it. And I think in Liberland, where the taxes are completely voluntary, that's a place where you can flourish.
Awesome. And Substratum.
Just follow us on Twitter, Substratum.net. Check out our YouTube channel, tons of educational videos there. And you can download the open beta at Substratum.net.
Awesome.
Fund.siliconexus.com is a standard crowdfunding site. It is a private sale crowdfunding site, not an ICO, not a crowd sale, but this is like a Kickstarter, digital assets, video game assets for our SiliconXus project.
So you're selling assets?
We're selling digital assets pre-selling digital assets for the SiliconXus.
Gotcha.
So you just go to siliconexus.com and we'll send you over to the fund page.
Sweet. All right. Last.
Got my own. Messenger Bank just want to bank the unbanked. Try to help the little people. We don't want anything from anybody. We want to give it. We want to give it back to society because we made it, and we want to really just help people. That's all. It's a really simple thing. We want to find some good partners for the 50 states so that they can make some money and build it for us, because I have to go to Brazil, to Africa, to Asia, to Europe. I have to build the whole world, so I can't stay in Beverly Hills and have fun. I have to move on. So the investors we are looking for is real investors. We want people who can take the risk, who have the money, who is not crying. We don't want to go and take $5 from somebody on an ICO. We never did that. That's not how we work. We don't roll like that.
So you're looking for accredited investors or family offices that would want to own part of the distribution network of North America? Is that?
That's it.
Okay.
That's it. Yes.
Okay, excellent. Thanks, guys. Give them a hand.
Thank you very much, guys. Fantastic panel. I'm surprised we were able to get all those big personalities on one stage, to be honest with you.
It's not an
Okay, next up we're going to have... I know. We are running a little behind, so we're going to keep things moving here. Next up we have Mr. Anurag Yadav. Anurag and I have been working together to put together this summit. They are a co-host and a partner, sponsor of the event.